Kara, can you just briefly introduce yourself to us and whoever is watching this video? Just tell us about your journey with OT, your education, your background, experience, and just how you got to where you are now.
Okay, sounds good. So, like you guys mentioned, my name's Kara Welke. I've been an occupational therapist for 20 years. I graduated back in 2000 with my master's in occupational therapy from the University of South Dakota. And right out of school, I started working at the place I did my field work. So I worked in acute care, in rehab, burn unit, did some peds, kind of did a variety of different things there. And then I ended up, and I drove about 45 minutes, and a position came up in the town I lived that was the director for an early Head Start program. And I applied for that, even though it had nothing to do with occupational therapy in the job description or anything, but I'm like, oh, this will fit. So I applied for that, and then I ended up getting that job, and I was the director of an early Head Start program where I was able to start the program from the ground up. It was a brand new program. So I did that for, I think, about 3 years. And in the meantime, I still worked PRN, OT, and then after that, my husband moved us up to North Dakota. So I was going to stay at home, be a stay-at-home mom, and tried that for a while, but just knew that I needed to still be out working and doing OT. So I ended up starting Flex PRN, and then I ended up working 3 days a week. So I could work 3 days a week and then be home with my kiddos the other 2 days a week for quite a few years. And during that time, I worked in several different facilities, skilled nursing facilities, assisted livings, things like that. Through when I worked there, I was able to start up several new programs in the different facilities. Started a new outpatient clinic in a town for them, started new Part B kind of practices in assisted livings, memory care facilities, and so forth. Then I worked there up until just a few years ago. Well, actually, yeah, like 2 years ago. And I ended up starting teaching. I think it was in like 2012. I started teaching in an OTA program, and I taught there up until this past December. So I was an instructor and the academic fieldwork coordinator. And at the same time, I kept my job, but I went down to PRN status because I just felt really firmly that I needed to have that experience when I was teaching along the way. So when I was teaching, I mostly did PRN in a transitional care unit, which was part of a skilled nursing facility. And let me see. So another part of that journey was I went back and got my doctorate degree a couple years ago. And when I went back and got that doctorate degree, I completed a capstone project, which was it helped with my work as academic fieldwork coordinator, because I created a program that utilized our students to get their level 2 fieldwork in a place that was like occupation-based, client-centered, evidence-based. Plus it helped where I was working as an OT, because we created a program for the clients at the transitional care unit that was occupation-based, client-centered. It's called the Active Engagement in Life program. There's actually an article on it in OT Practice a few years ago. So we created this program, and the students helped run it. And it went really well, and the facility wanted to continue with it. And they tried, but they didn't really have as much of the staff buy-in to do it. And then I ended up leaving working there, and then I started my own business working with older adults.
Wow.
So I started my own business, and I've always wanted to start my own business, but just never did, just never took the steps, because we really don't get the education we really need in order to start your business and be successful with it. And it was a couple years ago when a OTA student came in and asked me about doing an internship at this place in town. And I was like, oh, they don't have OT. She's like, well, I think they do. And I'm like, well, let's call them. So I called them up and I started to talk to them. And we got to talking. They were actually just approved to be a home health Part A provider, and they did not have OT. And so I got to talking to them about what I do, and that my goal is to eventually have my own practice where I'm providing mobile therapy or outpatient therapy in people's homes through Med B. And they were like, oh, you need to come in and talk to us. Anyway, so I went in and talked to them. And then a few months later, I started my own business because they wanted to work together and contract with me to provide services. So it made the step a lot easier because just going out on my own and starting to get my own clients was a little scary, but I knew I would have clients through them. So I started my business and I see their clients, but then I also have our own clientele where we see clients through Medicare Part B. So I've been doing that for the last few years. And then come in December, I resigned from teaching so I could focus more on my business, as well as I'm the creator of the Next Level Occupational Therapy group, program, platform, whatever you want to call it. So it's Next Level OT started a year ago in June, and we have a membership site for occupational therapy professionals where we do tons of monthly trainings. We have tons of resources, discounts, things like that. And then we have different programs. One of our biggest programs is called Therapy Business Builder, where we help therapists across the United States build their own business and start their own business. So we currently have 30 plus therapists, and that's PTs, OTs, and speech, that are building their own business through our program. And the majority of them are also working with older adults doing the Med B outpatient in clients' homes. So yeah, that's a little scenario about me. I know it was probably longer than you anticipated, but
no, great. It sounds like, yeah, you have a lot of experience.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, that was great to hear about your long history with OT. That's awesome. And it sounds like you're really working with other OTs to build their businesses kind of where you might not have had that guidance necessarily. So it's cool that you're kind of stepping up to advocate for those OTs. So you mentioned that you own the business, and that's called Home Therapy Solutions, correct?
Yep.
Would you mind just going a little bit more into detail and explaining that business to us?
Yep. So Home Therapy Solutions provides skilled occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy in clients' homes. And I have actually independent contractors working with me currently, PT, other OTs, and speech. And eventually I hope to move it into, where I have employees. But at this time, I have very experienced therapists that I know that can function independently. So, and in our state and in our model, it works. But, if I want to kind of take it to the next step, I'll have to actually start with employees. But so we see, older adults in their home with a whole variety of problem situations. So, and the biggest thing is a lot of people don't understand the difference between outpatient Part B services in the home versus home health, which is under, Medicare Part A. So, even some doctors and nurses and referral sources, they think we're home health, and we're not home health Part A. We're actually a mobile clinic that just goes to the client's home, so they don't have to go into an outpatient practice. As far as myself, I kind of specialize working with clients with Parkinson's. I have a few different certifications as far as Parkinson's Wellness Recovery Program and the Ohio Health Delay the Disease that I utilize. I recently completed the Skills to Care program, which is a program designed to work with caregivers of clients with dementia and able to bill Medicare utilizing those different programs. We do also provide private pay for people that are not on Medicare, do not have Medicare or bill out of network as well. But since my population is, older adults, the majority of them have Medicare. One kind of issue is only some clients think they have Medicare, but they actually signed up for like a Medicare Advantage plan. And that's a little bit different with that. So yeah, we see a variety of clients, and we kind of have two different groups. So we have our own clients that we see that are through like the Medicare Part B mobile outpatient, but then the business also contracts with a home health Part A company, and we see their clients. So like when I contract with that home health Part A company, I don't do the billing for them. The documentation system is through them. They take care of all of that. We go see the clients, we do our documentation on their system, and then we invoice them at the end of the month. Also, I see VA clients through that company as well. So there's a couple different tiers there as far as what we do. So,
and you mentioned somewhat about your documentation process. What does that documentation look like? How is it different from maybe other settings that you've worked in or similar?
So, so for my own business, we utilize a system called HelloNote. It is, so when you start your own business, one thing you got to decide is, what are you going to do for documentation? Are you going to, some people honestly use like G Suites, a HIPAA compliant version, and do their own documentation. Other people choose to do an electronic medical record or a EMR system. And I ended up going with HelloNote. The CEO is actually an occupational therapist who also had a mobile clinic just like mine. So it fit really well with it. We're actually have been kind of collaborating for a few years on trying to make a template that really follows the OTPF within it. But otherwise, right now, it's pretty basic documentation. You document your evaluation, document your notes, pretty much the same. With the home health Part A, their system is very similar, but they all have different questions and a little different components to it. Did you have a question?
So, yeah. So when it's in the computer, is it like a basic template and then you fill in each of the sections?
Yep.
Like, what's it look like?
Yep. So within the EMR, and all EMRs are different. Some have, just boxes you can go through and click and add a few comments. Some are more open where you can type in and add more information. So HelloNote has a variety of areas, like say when you are evaluating dressing and bathing and transfers, where you go and you can click the assist levels, but then there's also the comment section that you can add in more detail there. They also have the whole section of different assessments. So, when I complete my different assessments within the evaluation, I can go in and pull up the assessment that I completed, fill that out, and then for a lot of them, you can even click a button and it'll interpret it. So it'll say like, this client is at a fall risk due to ...
Okay, I see.
Cool. And so we got a little bit of insight into your documentation process, but now maybe bigger picture, we'll ask, what does a typical day look like for you? Like a typical work day, maybe outside of quarantine or within quarantine even?
So with my business, it really varies. Now come summer, I'll switch over and have my independent contractors work more, so I can spend more time with my family. But during the year before COVID, I would see, because I still do this on the side since my next level OT is extremely busy right now, but I could see anywhere from 3 to 5 clients a day, and I tried my best to keep them a few days a week, or 3 days a week instead of every day, but it just depends on what the client needs. But it's usually just driving to a client's house and working with the clients. I'm a very occupation-based, client-centered, functional therapist. I don't believe in UBEs and cones and TheraBand and things like that. So our treatment really focuses on their functional deficits and working on skills in the natural environment to help them get to where they need. I guess I can give you an example of a client. When we started therapy with him, he was having multiple falls a week, even sometimes multiple falls a day. And it was to the point where they were calling the ambulance or 911 on a regular basis, and either the fire department or someone would have to come and help get him up. And by the time we were done, he was able to go from standing to prone on the floor to back up to standing all by himself without holding on to anything. So we do incorporate some, I really like the Parkinson's Wellness Recovery Program, and there are different movements that they have in there. So incorporating activities like that along with functional daily activities to work on, their skills. In the home setting, it's ideal because we work on whatever their problem is right there, whether that's in the bathroom or bedroom or kitchen or outside. So that works well.
Do you typically work in kind of addressing, so like a reactive type thing, or are you ever working in like a preventative way? So do you ever go in maybe before a client has falls, if they say have a Parkinson's diagnosis, and then address things like home modifications beforehand?
Right. So all of our current clients are either from, a personal referral, a physician referral, or from the home healthcare company. And a lot of them are either they're seeing the decline, it hasn't happened yet, but they are declining, or it's after a stay. So a lot of it is after the fact, but we work really hard to get them to the point where they're not going to start that cycle over again. So it's not like just in and out. I have started an online functional fitness group for older adults that is more focused on the preventative approach and on teaching them activities and things that they need to do in order to improve their balance, in order to be able to get up and down from the floor, to keep their mobility and strength for functional activities. And I try to every session incorporate the reasons why, like we're doing this movement so that you can always wash the back of your hair. We're doing the internal rotation so you can always pull your pants up, or, things like that. So we do that. There's so much you could do, like just my little business alone could blossom in so many different areas, but since I have a whole nother side business, I kind of got to keep it in the narrow area. It's still not really narrow, but.
Well, and a lot of OT is preventative in its own way, just the way that we address certain things, obviously, and promote safety. So I didn't mean that you weren't working for prevention, just wondered how that kind of referral process.
Oh yeah, no, I know. It's just unfortunate that we don't get the preventative evaluations, or we're not seeing as many clients in the preventative stance, as far as like, here's an older adult, we'd like you to go in, do a home assessment, get them going on, a program that's going to keep them at optimal level. Unfortunately, right now our healthcare system is so reactive, not proactive. So,
right.
And then you got to consider payment, who's going to pay for it, and things like that. So.
And then also I just have a question, if you could elaborate further. So you said with the company that you contract through, they do Medicare Part A.
Yep.
And then but your business is Medicare Part B.
Yep.
So can you just explain that a little bit further? So when you kind of take on clients from them, you build that company who then is billing Part A. Is that?
Yep.
Is that correct?
So,
okay.
Yep. So Part A, a client has to qualify in order to get home health Part A services. It's usually after a hospital stay or when they're coming home from the nursing home, and they need, skilled nursing, PT, OT. They might just need skilled nursing. They might just need nursing and OT, nursing and PT. But they're homebound. They're not able, to leave the house and so forth. So there's a whole different and it's, you know, it's a lot bigger deal to create a business where you're a home health agency. Takes a lot more, and you have to have so many more policies and procedures go into that. So with that company, yes, when a client, let's just say a client was in the hospital for a week, and they needed home health care because they were still not able to leave the home to get to an outpatient clinic, that might be a circumstance when they have home health part A. And then the company would call us, we go in and do our evaluation, and our main goal is to get them so they're no longer homebound, because the path they're trying to get them to do is, okay, they're at home, they can't get out. Now we want to get them to the point where they're able to go into a clinic for outpatient services. Well, the nice thing is with my business now, with a client that is on home health, yes, they might be discharged from home health part A because they're no longer homebound and they don't meet the other requirements, but it's still hard for them to get into an outpatient clinic, or they would just prefer someone to come to their home. So that's when our business can step in.
Right. Okay. Thanks for explaining that.
Yeah.
And then you said you have other therapists that work with your company, and you said those are PTs. Did you mention SLPs?
So I have one SLP, and that's on contract. We haven't really utilized her much. It seems like the most of our business is PT and OT evaluations that we get, but I do have her if that comes up. And then, yes, I have a physical therapist, and then I have a couple other occupational therapists. When I first started my business, I had occupational therapy assistants, but the crappy thing is with Medicare Part B in private practice, occupational therapy assistants and physical therapy assistants cannot go into clients' homes alone. And it just makes absolutely no sense, because under home health Part A, OTAs and PTAs can go in to the home and do the visits, but under Medicare Part B, they can't. But AOTA is working hard and trying to make changes. And I hope someday that that changes, so that then I can employ OTAs so they can go into the home and do Medicare Part B, because that would be ideal situation. So.
Right. Yeah, it's always interesting to learn the ins and outs of the billing processes and the differences between OTAs and OTs.
Yep.
So that does sound, so then you said you used to have OTAs, but then you weren't, so you had to kind of cut that part off.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a barrier to sort of the way that your business was run. Are there any other barriers that you've encountered as you've entered this practice setting?
Well, definitely, not being able to utilize OTAs, because that was kind of my initial game plan. Plus, I just know a lot of OTAs and PTAs because I taught at a community college for several years. So that's a blow. As far as barriers, I think for some people just starting out, getting the referrals and things like that can be hard. Luckily, I have worked in the community, in the aging population for quite a few years and have quite a few connections. So that hasn't been a problem. And with a mobile outpatient practice, it's awesome because you don't have the expenses you do with a clinic. So it's really a more financially feasible plan to start off with a business. You can start off with not very much amount of money to get going, and you can make a decent income doing it as well, because you avoid the middleman of the employer taking a good chunk of your money. But yeah, so not too many other barriers. I'm obviously right now, COVID-19 and the virus and all of that's a huge barrier.
It also it sounds like a pressing need for this practice setting is also the use of the OTAs or PTAs. Are there any other maybe major things that you see that need to be advocated for this practice setting to kind of take off in a more maybe preventative way, or just to...
I think
farther.
So it would be nice to have more OTAs and PTAs. We have been really advocating for telehealth for Medicare Part B, and that literally just got approved 1 week ago, I think, very recently. Unfortunately, we don't know how long that will last. But there's good and bad with that. With telehealth, with our population, some of the clients just are not tech savvy or even have the equipment in order to do a telehealth session. But on the other hand, if clients are tech savvy and are able to do telehealth, that allows us to do a combination of in-person telehealth sessions and able to, help them continue on, but not have to go into their home on such a regular basis.
Yeah, telehealth, I think may or like from now might become a bigger thing for everyone, but I also don't know outside of quarantine what that looks like. I know that there are a lot of pushes for that to be implemented, but once this is over, when life gets back to the new normal, I'm not sure what that looks like.
Yeah.
Let's see. So as Andrea and I, as future OTs, what can we do to further advocate for the setting or for those changes to be made? Or what can any OTs or future OTs do to advocate for it?
Well, the big thing is, with the OTA, it's not being able to see Medicare Part B. There was a petition that went around back in January, but really talking, to your state associations, national associations, writing letters, reaching out to legislatures, and letting them know, that OTAs are just as capable to provide services in clients' homes under Medicare Part B as they are, because they're already doing it in clients' homes under Medicare Part A. And the crazy thing is usually the clients' homes with like the Medicare Part A, or those clients are more complex than even the ones that are being seen for the outpatient. So it's just kind of backwards. And that kind of goes back to when your students, like say in a skilled nursing facility, students can, once they show competency, and of course, when they get to that point in their field work, they can see Medicare Part A clients on their own without the supervisor right there, but they can't with Medicare Part B. The therapist has to be there directing the treatment and so forth. So it's just really interesting that it seems kind of backwards. So just advocating for the profession, letting people, if you can let people know that they do not have to work for someone else, that you guys can start your own business and serve this older adult population is huge.
All right. Well, I just saw the message from Andrea.
We still have a little bit more time. It says a gift was sent. We have a little more extra time. So we can just go over everything.
Okay. So yeah, that's just one thing I'd say to you guys that I wish I would have realized more as a student, that I need to be starting to think, what kind of business am I going to create for myself right away versus what kind of job am I going to offer? And we're working with therapists that are out, been out of school a year and are starting their own practice. We're working with students that have been out of school for several years, but one of their biggest regrets is that they didn't start their own business sooner. And I just really hope that this continues, that, us as occupational therapists see the value of creating your own business, running your own business, and that it allows you to serve the clients the way they really should be versus, some of the stipulations that are put on you by people that are out there more for the money than the quality of care that are being provided.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kara, for all your, it's crazy, all your different various experiences. It definitely is beneficial to us as future OTs. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's great to hear about the journey just from, you mentioned so many different settings along the way and then to end up where you are now. I think we hear that so many times, but it doesn't, we're, as students, it's hard to see that trajectory, I guess, but it's cool to just hear how you have made it and then helping others to start their own business and be entrepreneurs and innovative as well. That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah,
The other
thank
thing
you.
is like a lot when I was working for a business, a health system, like I developed a lot of programs and I started new sites at different places. And, I could have done that for myself and developed my own
Mhm.
business than to do it for them. So, think about that. If you have these ideas that you think are really going to work, explore how you can do it for yourself versus building an empire for, a CEO of a big company or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's great advice. Do you have anything else you'd like to share? Any other words of wisdom?
Nope, I appreciate all you guys are doing for asking us therapists in the field. I think that's awesome. And I say just focus on the client-centered care, and focus on occupation. Throw away UBEs, cones, all that stuff. We need to go back to our roots, because that's where we came from, is occupation-based therapy, and that's what really works. So
Thank you.
Well, great. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to meet with us and just give us some insight into the aging in place practice setting and into just your life and your career. Thanks again.